Now you might be thinking, why are you so boring? What's the problem with that? Everyone likes a drink. And that is true. Most people do like a drink. And most people do like to socialise. But in my opinion, this is where the problem comes in. Hello guys, how are we? For those of you new here, I'm a psychology student trained to be a therapist, so on this channel we talk about positivity, mindset, well-being, mental health and all things like that. So if that sounds of interest, stick around. Today I wanted to discuss a really important topic, and that topic is socialising doesn't mean drinking. Now, to some people this may be blindingly obvious, but certainly here in the UK and a lot of other cultures, it is not obvious at all, and those two things have basically almost become one in the same. And what I mean by that is, obviously it doesn't mean that every time you say hello to someone you have to take a shot or something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, especially for young people, to organise a social occasion is to base it around alcohol, or at least have alcohol involved. It is always a bottomless brunch, going to the pub, a night out, beers in someone's garden, whatever it is, there is nearly always an element of alcohol involved. Now you might be thinking, why are you so boring? What's the problem with that? Everyone likes a drink. And that is true. Most people do like a drink. And most people do like to socialise. But in my opinion, this is where the problem comes in. When you can't separate drinking and socialising, it becomes hard to give one up without giving up the other. And I want to talk about what problems that caused in general, but speaking from my personal perspective, what problems it caused for me. Now, I am not averse to having a drink. Anyone who knows me knows that espresso martinis and Guinness have a place in my heart. I used to joke that my blood alcohol content was 50% espresso martini, 50% Guinness. I can rarely ever turn them down. Absolutely love them. I would drink them all day if they were non-alcoholic. Absolutely love them. I also am someone who's incredibly social. I really enjoy being around people. I'm definitely an extrovert. I'm charged by social interactions. My energy is charged by social interactions. If I'm having a bad day, or if I wake up in the morning and I'm not really in a good mood, by the time I've got into the office and spoken to people, if I'm even going downstairs and chatting to one of my housemates for 10 minutes, I'm sort of back on top of the world and feel so much better. The issue I had is I'd ended up convincing myself I liked drinking more than I actually did, because I am that social. And especially, like I said, the way I grew up, maybe not so much at secondary school, but certainly I didn't go to university. I'm at university now, but I didn't go to university when I left school. I went straight into work, and I worked in an office job in London, and that is how you socialise there. At the end of the day, you go to the pub, you have a few pints. And because of who I was, I worked with people I really, really liked, but I really, really struggled to say no to social invitations, because I want to be there, not because of social pressure, because I want to be there. But the problem with that was, I felt if I was saying yes to the social invitation, I was saying yes to having a drink. And because that's sort of basically how I entered adulthood, that would have been when I was sort of 19. I went back a year at school, so I didn't leave school till I was 19. So when I'm sort of 19, 20, all my social circles are being formed around drinking, basically. And it probably genuinely wasn't until maybe sort of the lockdowns of 2020, so we're talking sort of 5-6 years or so, that I actually began to see my friends outside of a setting that involved alcohol. Now I know that sounds ridiculous, but when you think about it, like you say, when you're young men, unless you're meeting guys at work, the only time you're really seeing them is going to the pub. Like, we weren't sort of going for coffees or just going for a walk or something like that. Like, if we met up, went down the pub and had a drink. And even that in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing in terms of going to the pub or something like that. The issue is feeling like you need to drink every time you go. And this became a real issue with me, because I felt that I couldn't give up one without giving up the other. And I've spoken about this on the channel before. I've tried giving up drinking, I think 3 times. I genuinely really just tried to quit. And it will never happen. And mainly because I don't want it to. Like I said, the idea of never having a Guinness or an espresso martini again makes me very sad. That's not what I want. But the problem I was having was I was incapable of just managing what I was drinking. Not in the sense of I had a problem with alcohol specifically as such, in the sense of every time I went out, if the other person was having a drink, I just drink with them, and we just keep having drinks until the night came to an end and we went home. When in reality, what would have been so much better for me is if, one, I just said, oh, I'm just having one or two and then I'll go into lemonade, or I'll just go, I'm just not drinking tonight. You have what you want. I'm just going to have an orange juice lemonade, and still just good to see you and have a catch up. The reason this became a problem for me is, I'll go into this a lot more sort of in the next video that I'm doing actually, but like I said, I never had a problem with alcohol, but at the end of the day, alcohol isn't good for you. That's not like that newsflash. Drinking a lot of alcohol isn't good for your physical health, mental health, your body, your brain, any blood, anything. Alcohol was part of the reason I was really struggling to lose weight. Second of all, I actually didn't enjoy drinking that much. Like, I've never been someone who drinks to get drunk. I purely drink for social reasons, or if I'm maybe just chilling at home watching Chelsea on the TV or watching some sport on the TV. If it's sort of a weeknight, I'm used to maybe just open a bottle of wine or something like that. But I was never someone who went out and enjoyed just going down the pub and having 8, 9, 10 pints. But I ended up doing it just because that was what everyone else was doing, and I sort of felt like, well, if I'm going to come out with them, I have to drink with them, when in reality that's not true at all. I want to get this message across because if you're someone who's really trying to work on your health, or just cut back on alcohol, or specifically maybe if you're trying to lose weight or something like that, being able to separate drinking and socialising is so important, because it is more than acceptable to go out and not want to drink. I don't want to drink tonight is enough of a reason not to drink. It's so weird. If someone comes out and says, oh, I'm driving, or oh, I'm doing dry January, or something like that, they just get a free pass. But it's almost like if you don't want to drink, you need a specific reason. One of my close friends is Muslim. Do you think we ever said, oh, why are you not having a drink tonight? Obviously not. Did we ever not invite him out because he wasn't drinking? Obviously not. He came out and he'd stay out with us the whole night and just have his Diet Cokes, and that was absolutely fine. And I actually remember, weird story, I've just thought of this actually, I just remember I was chatting to him once. Ironically, I was drunk, so I didn't actually take on the advice that he said, but I ran him up just saying, God, the amount of money that I've spent on alcohol tonight, I sometimes think that I should go the way you're going and follow your religion. And he just turned around and went, you do know you don't have to be Muslim to not drink. You can just say, oh, I'm not drinking. And I sort of laughed and walked off, when actually that's probably some of the best advice I've ever been given. Like I said, I will never advocate going completely dry, because that would be hypocritical of me. Not, I wouldn't advocate it as in I'd say it's a bad thing, but I would never say to people you should do that, because I will never do that. Because like I said, I do enjoy having a drink. I specifically enjoy those drinks. Like I said, I would drink them if they were non-alcoholic. However, I certainly would advise anyone, especially if you're on sort of if you're training for a run or something like that, or if you're trying to lose weight, if you are actively trying to cut your body fat percentage, really regulating your alcohol intake is something I'd massively advise. The reason that I sort of wrote all this down and decided to do this video was I suddenly realised it's the 31st of July today, and it's nearly the end of the day and I haven't done anything silly yet, but I, without even thinking about it consciously, made it through the whole of July without drinking. I just did a dry month in the middle of the year. I've never done that before. I do dry January every year and do it no problem and really enjoy it, which is something else that I should have noticed earlier. But anyway, I've ended up doing the whole of July without drinking, not by consciously doing it, just by saying, unless I am invited to a specific night out that I want to go to, I have no reason to drink. Like if I'm going to see someone in the daytime, let's just get a coffee, or let's just go for a walk or something like that. Socialising doesn't have to revolve around drinking. And all of a sudden, I've gone 4 or 5 weeks without drinking, and a weight goal that I've been really struggling to break through, I broke through it without realising the other day. I just weighed myself and I was like, oh, I've lost 1.5 kilograms since I last realised. I'm going to do a video on that in a few weeks when I hit the milestone that I actually want to. So to summarise, takeaway, I'm not telling you to go dry whatsoever. All I'm saying is, if you are someone who's trying to be conscious about your health, just be conscious of how much you're drinking. Don't drink unless it's an occasion you actually want to drink at. Don't just have casual pints or whatever for the sake of it. Just swap it for a lemonade. For the sake of 1 or 2 beers, you're not going to notice the difference. Secondly, and this one is huge, and this is one that I really wish I'd had at 18, and it might sound really obvious to some people, but I promise you, when you're young, it's not. Don't drink alcoholic drinks you don't like. I do not like any pint that isn't Guinness. The amount of pints that I've drunk in my life where I was actively not enjoying it, but I was just having a pint because everyone else was, I've wasted so much money and health and energy drinking drinks that I actively didn't enjoy. Don't do that. If there isn't a drink behind the bar that you like, just have a lemonade or a Coke and go, there's nothing here that I like. Sorry. You don't even need to say sorry. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. I do appreciate you guys who stick around. If you did find any of it useful, please do consider liking and subscribing. I drop 2 of these videos every week. Comment any other thoughts you have below. As always, my socials are in the description if you want to drop me a message or ask me a question or anything like that. And I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care, guys.